Hey everyone, it's the Invincible Movie Man back once again with another video. So there has been a spate of recent releases on Netflix and Hulu and other platforms for a number of comedy specials that have just come out. And as someone who started to dabble himself in the stand-up comedy world as Miserable Comedy Man, if you haven't seen my YouTube channel, check it out please, and also on IG. I felt I was in a good position to review these three specials. Now, the specials are from Sebastian Maniscalco, Kevin Hart, and Matt Rife, three of the top working comedians today. I've been a fan of all three of these for a long time. I've been a fan of Maniscalco since his YouTube stuff came out from, I think, 2014 when he was doing some sets there around, what it is to hear a doorbell or dancing in clubs, etc. He kind of reminds me of an American version of Mickey Flanagan, who is a British comic that I've followed for years and years now, long before he was famous. And Kevin Hart, really, don't really need to say much about him. Stellar comedian, stellar acting career as well. He's always been one of those comedians that I've found really funny, just based on his, not just his wit, but his animated sort of style and his facial expressions, etc. And of course we have Matt Rife, somewhat newcomer to the scene, although he's been around for quite a long time, actually, to be honest. And, it blew up when every woman on the planet fell in love with him. But he's actually got some serious comedic chops. He's always, someone who pushes the edge a little bit. Sometimes he's had a little bit of controversy over the years. But, he's getting stronger and stronger. And so they all released their specials recently, and I watched all three. I wanted to give you my thoughts on them and which one I think is better, for me at least, my sense of humor, than the others. You've got to say, really, that Maniscalco and Hart have had a number of specials in the past. So they're hitting that comedy trough, I would say, where people say your first three or four specials are really good and then you start to tail off a bit. I think happened with Dave Chappelle. I think it's starting to happen with Maniscalco and Hart. And actually, based on Maniscalco's brand of humor, he was personally my favorite of all of the three of these comedians going into this. And the hype around his It Ain't Right tour was pretty big. I enjoyed seeing all of the promos and everything. And I was expecting a special where he really just railed on about things that, he doesn't think is right. I mean, that was the whole purpose, right? It ain't right. Kevin Hart's got acting my age. He's getting older now. His kids are older. So it's that period where, a lot of comics start to reflect on their life experiences rather than sort of crazy stuff that happened in their youth. And Matt Rife is really good at interacting with the crowd. So his special is just entirely a crowd work special. He doesn't really have too many jokes or punchlines. He just riffs off what the crowd gives him. And they give him a lot. But let me start with Maniscalco, because he is my favorite of the three. I enjoyed his special. Definitely not as good as his previous ones, like Stay Hungry or Aren't You Embarrassed? I thought they were the pinnacle of his career. I think the reason in this special is he's talking more about his sort of age and what's happening to him. Very similar to Kevin Hart, very similar topics. But there was less stuff about his childhood, less stuff about his dad, less stuff about the crazy sort of immigrant background. A bit more about who he is as a person and how he views the world, how he views kids, how he views theme parks, how he views, getting old and not being able to do the things he could do before. And some of that translates well. Some of that kind of falls a bit flat for me. There wasn't much of a through line in his special. He didn't call back to previous jokes, and quite a lot of the setups and the punchlines sort of fell, I wouldn't say short, but they ended quite quickly. Maybe you're expecting like a big finish or a big punchline, but really it was just him being animated and talking. And of course, if you've seen the SNL skit where they parody him recently, which is absolutely brilliant, they get his mannerisms and his voice spot on, and he highlights all of those in this special. And I could just hear Sebastian talking and find it funny, but at the end of the day, I thought the punchlines in this were not as strong as his previous specials, especially the ending. The ending I thought was a bit weak. I thought it'd build up to a big ending, a big crescendo, but the ending sort of came out of nowhere, and we thought, is that it? He also never said it ain't right about any of the topics he spoke about. I was hoping he was going to say at least once or twice, if he's moaning about something and at the end saying it ain't right, I want to hear about the things he doesn't think are right. So I was a bit surprised that wasn't really at all in the special. I really was surprised that it wasn't there. I thought it was going to be there. I was hoping for it to be there. I will say there are periods of the special where he does really sell the audience well. He lands a couple of big jokes, and that works really well. But it's fewer and far between than his previous specials. And again, the through line, the references, the stuff that the people have come to know from him about his immigrant dad and everything, that really wasn't prevalent. So a different kind of special, not as good as his others, still enjoyed it, but okay for me. And then moving on to Kevin Hart, who I think was more animated in this than I've seen him previously. I mean, Kevin Hart is such a natural storyteller that a lot of the time he's just telling stories, and sometimes you can see the punchline coming a mile off, but it's still good because of the way he's telling them. He's not as, it doesn't do as many accents or as much physical comedy as Maniscalco, but his facial expressions, and when he does like old guys or his uncle, that's when I think he's funniest. And he does quite a few of those. He does have a through line in it. He talks about acting your age and how, age changes you. And he's got some good anecdotes about that and some sort of heartfelt messages too. I think the thing with Kevin Hart's special for me is that I found his punchlines funnier than Maniscalco's, but his setups were quite long and didn't really lend themselves to the punchline as much. And he kind of breezed through it pretty quickly. He does have that through line. He does talk about his age and a number of sort of callbacks. Some of them were a bit too ridiculous for me, a bit too over the top. It talks about, spoilers, talks about Michael Jordan's back pockets being large enough to fit a laptop. I mean, or a desktop or something. I mean, I didn't find the image that funny, even though, he calls back to it a couple of times later on. But there were some humorous parts, definitely, through the end. I thought his ending was much stronger than Maniscalco's. I thought he built up that story at the end with the gorilla trekking. That was the strongest piece for me, at least, in the special. The earlier parts were just kind of okay. I think the other thing about Kevin Hart when he's doing his special is he's really enjoying himself. He's laughing sometimes more than the audience, and you can see him cracking up. And that level of enthusiasm is great to see. But if the punchline isn't as strong as his own laughter, I think it falls a little bit short for me. He didn't have so many huge audience laughs as Maniscalco. I think Maniscalco had some stronger sort of bits in the middle. But Kevin Hart keeps the audience enthralled the whole way. I mean, as I said, the way he delivers his setups and anecdotes is really well done. But they do drag on a bit. And again, some of the punchlines, certainly in the early parts in the middle, were not as strong for me. I would probably say that, as I said, his ending is stronger than Maniscalco's. I maybe would just edge Maniscalco on the special, although I think, Kevin Hart's presence on stage and physical, sort of acting ability, conveying emotions and doing his facial expressions is stronger than Maniscalco's. But obviously, Maniscalco's physical mannerisms are much funnier to watch. I will say about Maniscalco, he does a lot of the same stuff he did before. The kind of zombie guy, the eating popcorn, the sort of squats. They're all stuff we've seen before, and he does really well. So it wasn't anything new there. Kevin Hart acting as an old guy is just funny. He should just do that himself without too many jokes. But let's get on to the third one. Matt Rife, crowd work special, where again, didn't really have much to say. And I was wondering how he's going to do it. He's had a few setups to ask the audience about stuff. And I don't know if it was planted or whether he just got lucky, but he had some really funny answers. And the thing with Matt Rife's special is there are some periods where he definitely gets the audience sort of have a gasp of intake of breath because they think he's crossed the line. They think he's gone a bit too racial, a bit too crazy, a bit too, anti-feminine. But, Matt Rife is very, very fast on his feet. He's, his way to sort of come up with stuff and come up with quick retorts is so good to watch. And I think that spontaneity makes it funnier for me than the other two specials. I watched a video recently because I'm in this stand-up community in Hong Kong, not so much the professional ones, although there are some professionals in there, but more the sort of open micers. And they talk about how, they sent a video about how people are doing only sort of crowd work now on YouTube because it's stuff that you can do spontaneously, it's got a bit more tension in the room, and it's stuff that if you post on YouTube or IG, people come to your show, they won't see it again. So it's great. They get a sense of who you are without seeing your actual material. And I think that's why Matt Rife was smart in doing this. There's been a number of people that have done crowd work specials recently. But I think where Matt Rife excels is he's not afraid to push the envelope. I mean, he said stuff that genuinely made me laugh out loud at the sort of audacity or the level which he went to. It's stuff that, maybe stuff that I would say with my mates where no one's listening, stuff that would probably get you cancelled if you really went after him. But it's stuff that's funny. I'm not a fan of cancel culture. I think you should say anything in jest. I don't think the intent to really offend or harm or abuse someone is there. But if you come out with stuff that is funny, even if it's a bit racial or a bit sexist, I'm all for it, right? I think if you are a good person and you help people and you're kind-hearted, you can say, some funny, slightly mean stuff, and in an attempt to get people to laugh, because getting people to laugh is one of the greatest joys of this world, and it's something that we should all try and do more of. So in that respect, I think Matt Rife succeeded more in his special where the others didn't. I thought that the premise is, in terms of, it's a Christmas special, so a lot of talk about Christmas traditions and sort of crazy stuff, things that make you feel good, things that make you feel bad. A lot of that stuff set up seemed basic, but the way that the audience gave him the material and the speed and the talent of the reaction set it a little bit apart for me. But he did a really great job. He held, even my wife was, enjoying it, even clearly she's enjoying looking at him, but she also enjoyed his work too. And so I think he had the crowd on his side. There are a few bits where he wavered, a few bits where he thought the crowd he's going to lose the crowd based on what he's saying, but he brings them back and he kind of moves on quickly when he knows it's not landing well. So very experienced at that. So it was an enjoyable special. I think, if you're looking for a Christmas theme special, it's the best one. If you're looking for someone who's quick on his feet, that's great. If you're looking for animated sort of physical humor and accents and sort of punchlines, this is not it. But in terms of the quality of all three, I think this was probably the best one for me. So I would go with Matt Rife 1, Maniscalco just edging out Hart at 2, and then Hart at 3, but Hart and Maniscalco are pretty neck and neck for most of it for me, but a little bit below Matt Rife. There you go, there you have it. That's my review of the stand-up specials that have just come out. Let me know what you think of in the comments below. Let me know what you think of my stand-up. Please check out Miserable Comedy Man, my other channel on YouTube and Instagram. I'm an old man, older than Kevin Hart, but younger than Maniscalco, who's just started getting into this world, a world that I thought, never really have a chance to try, and now I'm trying it. So, check it out, and then let me know what you think of the specials as well. Did you agree with me? Did you disagree with me? Do you have any other comments? Did you find bits funny that I didn't? So I'd be keen to hear your thoughts in the comments. As usual, please like, share, and subscribe to help the channel, and catch you next time.